Inside the tan-windowed craft, that moment. How long is it going to take us to get to Detroit in 10 years? Well, keep in mind we've got 4 extra passengers in here. This capsule's carrying a lot of weight. We should be there in about a minute. Once we arrive, we'll strategize how to keep Isabella's cuteness safe. Greenfield Village, 10 years later. The atmosphere is very dark and foreboding. The locomotive Torch Lake is idling at Smith's Creek Depot with 4 coaches. The time capsule shoots out of nowhere and stops on the platform. Phineas opens the hatch, pokes his head out, and looks around. Good grief! Everyone else pokes their heads out and looks around. Everything is practically demolished. A line of uniformed animal control officers, many of whom rather young, are making their way to the train. Excuse me, what happened here? Our unit has just cleared this area of copycats and we are now heading back to HQ. The animal control sergeant turns towards the troops. Alright, get on the train, come on. He walks away from the time capsule as the troop begins to board the train. One of the younger animal control officers, a private, looks behind him to make sure the sergeant isn't looking, then walks away from the line over to the time capsule. There were no copycats in this park. There were no copycats anywhere. No one's found a copycat in the last 10 years. Huh, we're from 10 years ago. Really? That's when the copycat hunt began. The copycat hunt? Yeah, it all started when Hawkeye Johnson established the Copycat Neutralization Union. That's my mom. Oh, well, in that case, could you go back to your time and tell her not to start the hunt? Ever since then, the world's gone to the blue bin. People have been drafted into animal control to hunt for this non-existent copycat, and places have been completely destroyed, one after another. Right now, the only places we have left that are actually habitable are Mexico, Scotland, Antarctica, Japan, and a duck farm in Prince Edward Island. How awful. I never thought my mom had it in her. Well, hey, I'm sure she didn't think it'd wreck everything, but still, it couldn't hurt to get her to call the whole thing off, don't you think? The sergeant walks up behind the private, grabs him by the back of his uniform, pulling it backwards. On the train, Private Blemish. The sergeant shoves the private onto the train. All the other animal control officers are on board. We'll put a stop to this dude, don't worry. Crouch down, guys. We're going back to our time. They recede back into the time capsule and Phineas closes the hatch. Green flames shoot out of the backs of the crafts. Then they turn around, shoot forwards into the air, and disappear. Phineas, why are we leaving? We need time to figure out what to do about Mitch. We can't waste a second. We've all seen the state of the future, and it's up to us to fix it. We'll be in St. Louis, Missouri in about 10 minutes, so... St. Louis? Why aren't we going home? We can't. St. Louis was already programmed on the route. But luckily we hadn't keyed in the time, so we can go to St. Louis at about 20 minutes after we left the backyard. Now, let's put our heads together. Some of our heads are together. Hey, Phineas, I've got an idea. What we gotta do is convince Mitch that Isabella's already lost her cuteness. How are we gonna do that? Candace pulls her cell phone out. We can take some goofy pictures of Isabella to show Mitch. Oh, come on. We could give Isabella braces, put massive thick glasses on her, and drag her through a mud puddle, and she'd still look like an absolute doll. Isabella's face turns bright red. She turns over facing the wall and grins ecstatically. No, we don't need to alter her appearance manually. All we gotta do is take pictures of her while she's talking. We're certain to get some funny-looking shots. Did that idea come out of personal experience, Candace? Absolutely not. What gave you that idea? Her eyes shift from side to side. Mock Bangaroo Convention, that moment. Meap fires cute death rays at Susie's lookalike as she hops from one inflatable Bangaroo to another. His rays hit the inflatable Bangaroos in bits of the ceiling and miss Susie's lookalike. She lands behind a kiosk. Meap fires cute death rays at the kiosk, then the one next to it, and then the one next to it. There's a brief pause. Bits of the ceiling are raining down. Susie's lookalike jumps out from a wrecked kiosk. Meap jumps towards her. They spin around before kicking each other backwards. Meap's translator mustache falls out from behind his back as he is forced backwards. As Susie's lookalike falls backwards, she holds her right hand out facing Meap. Bubble! A red ball of energy shoots out of Susie's lookalike's hand. Meap dodges it. Susie's lookalike fires more red balls of energy at Meap, who runs along some other kiosks which take the hits instead of him. Meap runs over to the water cooler. As he approaches it, a platypus-sized gyroscope pops out of the floor, envelops Meap, and electrifies, trapping him inside. Susie's lookalike starts walking threateningly towards him. Mitch's hand comes into frame and he snaps his fingers. Susie's lookalike stops and looks at Mitch, who walks out from the shadows. One of Mitch's robot bodyguards floats out of hiding, picks up Meap's twiddly translator mustache, and hands it to Mitch, who takes off his bushy translator mustache and puts the twiddly one on. Rather unexpected, but I think this will do for now, don't you? Yes, Big Mitch. Can I take this off now? First, give me the DNA sample. Susie's lookalike picks a hair from Meap off of her shoe and holds it up to Mitch. Mitch pulls out a pair of tweezers and takes Meap's hair from Susie's lookalike's hand. Excellent. Now I trust you remember how to escape that cover. Susie's lookalike's right arm shrivels up like all the insides have gone into her body. Then her right hip protrudes out and she pops like a balloon. Underneath is another robot bodyguard holding a pin. That's right, from the inside. Pay attention, you. A goofy-looking Susie lookalike walks up to Mitch. If you had a pin on you and we tested the modified air compressor on you the first time, you wouldn't be stuck like that. I'd be okay with that if his costume didn't turn out so much better. Well, lesson learned. Time to move on. Easy for you to say. Shut up. Can you remind us what Meap's ship looked like, my pet? The Bangaroo convention glows red, changes shape, and turns into Meap's wrecked ship. Doofenshmirtz's evil annex is revealed, along with a pile of television sets and electric toothbrushes, which was beneath a pile of wrecked kiosks. You see, the copycat can turn into anything it sees. Things like my ship, squirrels, speckly pigeons, pesky kids to lead my adversaries into an ambush, cheetahs to beat them to those ambushes, even entire landscapes, buildings, and decorations. Mitch holds his tweezers up and looks at the hares wickedly. But no one will ever catch him, because we're going to create a few decoys. I think your little earthling friend should do nicely. Meap looks alarmed. They can't stay hidden forever. Mitch turns towards the pile of used television sets and electric toothbrushes. That goes for you too, Colin. Balloony emerges from behind the pile. Don't think I don't know what you've been up to. I saw you over that suburban backyard. You're lucky I don't know where that sockman is. I trust you had something to do with that, too. He pulls a comm device out and waves it angrily at Balloony. All I asked you to do was get me access to this building. You've gone too far. As far as I'm concerned, you, my friend, are a traitor. He throws the comm device to the floor, breaking it. Now, unless you want me to hunt the sockman down and have him... He glances at the pin his robot bodyguard is holding. Popped. I suggest you leave this planet. Balloony floats where he is for a moment, then drifts away towards an open window. That's right. Susie's goofy-looking lookalike sheds a tear as Balloony floats out the window. Now cut that out, and keep an eye on him while I go make some modifications to our modified air compressor. Mitch walks away with a menacing grin. His robot bodyguard and Susie's goofy-looking lookalike turn to Meap with his gyroscope trap. Danville Theater. That moment. The seats are full, and on stage are 4 characters standing on a shrimping boat set holding a net full of artificial shrimp. If I could write music, this is where the musical segment would go. While the characters are singing, a green and white ray hits one of the characters and she disappears. Doofenshmirtz is shown in the audience holding a modified electric toothbrush. That takes care of you necessary. Perry appears from behind Doofenshmirtz's seat and taps Doofenshmirtz on the shoulder. He turns around. Oh, hey, Perry the Platypus. Got my message and thought you'd join me for the show, huh? Well, come on, sit right here. Doofenshmirtz points his modified electric toothbrush at the audience member sitting next to him. He turns a dial on the side with his thumb and presses a button. A green and white ray comes out of the bristles and hits the audience member. He disappears. You see, it turns out the director completely massacred the play adaptation of Shadows and Electrolysis. I had no electric toothbrush on me when Balloony gave me that ticket, so during the intermission, I made some changes to it. It takes people and objects to former or soon-to-be states or locations. I call it the Continuity-inator. I just removed Unnecessary from Part 2 since she was last seen in Part 1 in canon. Now I'll just get rid of Dash-Doff's lucky hat. He never wears that when he's shrimping. Doofenshmirtz points his Continuity-inator at one of the actors' hats. Perry slaps his hand, knocking the continuity onto the floor. Hey! Shh! There's no T in sh, lady. Perry jumps onto the floor after the Continuity-inator. Doofenshmirtz jumps down after him. What do you think you're doing, Perry the Platypus? I'm not doing anything evil, I'm just making this play better. He and Perry start wrestling over the Continuity-inator. Give me that. Some shots are fired from the Continuity-inator during the fray. One zaps an audience member's crew cut, turning it into an afro. Another zaps an audience member's shirt, and a massive pasta sauce stain appears down the front. Another zaps an audience member's cheek, upon which a P&F lemonade tattoo appears. Doofenshmirtz yanks the Continuity-inator away from Perry and fires it towards him. Perry jumps out of the way. The ray hits an audience member's shoe and the laces come untied. Perry crouches under a seat and pulls a roll of duct tape out of his hat. He takes off a strip, comes out from under the seat, and jumps towards Doofenshmirtz. He then grabs the Continuity-inator, duct tapes it to his arm, and presses the button with the bristles facing him. He and the Continuity-inator disappear just as Doofenshmirtz lunges at him. He hits his chair instead. Ow! Shh! Doofenshmirtz gets up and shakes his fist at nothing in particular. You Philistine, I was going to save this play. Shh. What? You can't tell me you like this version. It's garbage. It's worse than that new version of Jane Eyre that just came out. The characters on the stage throw the net of artificial shrimp at Doofenshmirtz, knocking him down. Ow! Ow! Curse you, Perry the Platypus! Doofenshmirtz's evil annex, that moment. Mitch's robot bodyguards and Susie's goofy-looking look-alike are still watching Meap in the gyroscope trap. Perry appears in front of them with the continuity indicator still duct-taped to his arm. He sees Meap in the gyroscope trap, then the guards, and he starts to run from them. The robot bodyguards and Susie's goofy-looking look-alike start firing red balls of energy at him. Perry dodges their shots, turns the dial on the continuity indicator with his thumb, and fires it at one of the bodyguards. It goes rusty and creaks dreadfully before breaking down and falling to the floor. The other bodyguard fires several times at Perry, who dodges every shot. He dives into the pile of used television sets and electric toothbrushes. The robot bodyguard fires several shots at the pile, destroying a few television sets and toothbrushes. Perry pops out of the pile and zaps the robot bodyguard, which turns rusty and breaks down, falling to the floor. Susie's goofy-looking look-alike fires a few shots at Perry. He dodges the shots, turns the dial on the continuity indicator, and zaps Susie's goofy-looking look-alike. She turns back into a robot bodyguard. Upon realization, it does a little happy dance. Perry zaps it again. It turns into a robot bodyguard building kit. Meep! Perry looks at the gyroscope trap and zaps it. It recedes back into the floor, freeing Meap, who runs towards the bushy translator mustache Mitch discarded earlier, and puts it on, making him sound like Tom Selleck. Thanks for that, man. Hey, can you help me with something else? Remember Mitch? He made everyone in your city think I'm a dangerous animal, and now he's going to turn my buddies into lookalikes of me. Meap pulls a picture of Phineas, Ferb, Candace, and Isabella out of nowhere and shows it to Perry. Perry's eyes widen. He thinks for a second, then runs over to the pile of used television sets and electric toothbrushes. He grabs an old broken television set, brings it over to the wall, plugs it in, and zaps it with the continuity indicator. The old broken television set turns into a good-as-new television set in excellent condition. Perry turns it on. Oh yeah, there's an idea. We can see what's going on the news. Perry starts channel surfing.
Yay! Meat carbonated goulash!
Huh. I don't remember doing this.